I know I'm a couple of days late with this story, but I really wanted to talk about it because it involves one of the franchises that launched my love for animation and for pop culture, and that being Transformers, and the fact that Hasbro will no longer be participating in the financing of their films.
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Berry. Welcome to the StudioJake vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast and consider becoming a channel member. I have said on multiple occasions that Transformers was one of the founding franchises that got me into pop culture and animation. Batman, of course, from Batman the Animated Series, number one. Spider-Man from Spider-Man the Animated Series, both on Fox Kids originally. Then, of course, there was Sonic the Hedgehog and Transformers. When I was growing up, when I was very small, before even Beast Wars was a thing and all the reboot series, there was a station, a local station, that ran reruns of old 80s cartoons, and that included Transformers, Mask, and G.I. Joe. Now, I wasn't as into Mask as Transformers, and G.I. Joe, I would have put somewhere in the middle. I wasn't super into it. Like my best friend, he's really big into G.I. Joe. I liked it, but it just was not as into it until much later. But I love the Transformers, this idea of giant robots punching each other. It was a lot of fun. I watched the whole 80s show, got into Beast Wars, got into Beast Machines, didn't like that one as much. Got into Transformers Robots in Disguise, or as it's originally known, Transformers Car Robots, and then the Unicron trilogy. And then the shows kind of started to taper off for me, especially during the Unicron trilogy, or I should say the Americanization of the Unicron trilogy wasn't really that impressive. Then Transformers Animated, Transformers Prime, which started the Align universe, so on and so forth. Whole crazy thing. Now, I was really excited when Transformers came out and directed by Michael Bay. Now, I know that that movie and its sequels have had a lot of fallout, especially critically and even with Transformers fans. I actually still like Transformers and Transformers Dark of the Moon. I didn't care for Revenge of the Fallen or a lot of the sequels afterwards. I did like Bumblebee. I thought Transformers 1 was okay. I have a review coming up about that pretty soon, but I'm not surprised based on fan reaction and just general audience reaction to the films, the theatrical films specifically, that Hasbro is kind of not interested in financing these movies anymore. It seems like they're going to go a different direction. Maybe we'll still get some TV shows from them, but it seems like Paramount, which currently has the film and television rights, that they are going to still push this. Now, Paramount has been a mixed bag since they've gotten the rights to the Transformers, but nonetheless, they did better than Netflix, certainly. Netflix's Transformers series was awful. War for Cybertron, I think it was called. The voice acting in that one was particularly not impressive. Anyway, I digress. All that to say, I'm not surprised that Hasbro is going a different direction. So this is according to Cybertron.com. And let me tell you something. When I was a teenager, Cybertron is where I went for all my Transformer news. So this was kind of a cool blast from the past that they're still active and still making news about Transformers. So Cybertron, keep it up. You guys are doing awesome. This is what they write. Hasbro is going through massive changes. Brian Goldner's vision was of Hasbro becoming a multimedia company big on brand content like Disney. However, the corporate vision has changed since Chris Cox became the CEO. Since the film division was not working out, several of their bigger investments were not profitable, including Transformers 1. It was sold, and now we have a confirmation from Bloomberg that Hasbro will stop investing in films, Transformers or otherwise. For us fans, that means the future of our beloved franchise lies entirely with Paramount now and what they want to do, with Lorenzo di Bonaventura as their main creative producer to the franchise. Back to Hasbro's vision. The article states that it will shift its funds into financing video games. Chris Cox happens to come from Microsoft, and he brought over that tech angle as a way to ensure Hasbro's future along with its brands. We'll see if this means a new Transformers game is in the works. All right, and like I said, big shout out to Cybertron.com. It's spelled Seibertron. I'm sure to avoid copyright infringement. So yeah, it seems like they're just going to let Paramount have the stage when it comes to film and television. I would love to see a really good Transformers games. A lot of times I feel like Transformer games, they don't quite capture what they're supposed to be about. Like I remember there was a Transformers game that came out and it was based in the Armada universe and it was supposed to be called Transformers Prelude to Energon because the sequel to Transformers Armada show was called Transformers Energon. What ended up happening was they changed the name to just Transformers. Well, that led to a lot of confusion when it came out because Transformers by itself is typically associated with Generation 1. That's why the comic books that are connected specifically to the 80s, connected to the early origins of Optimus Prime and the Ark and his crew, that's typically tied to that specifically. I don't actually blame solely the film franchise's mismanagement on the woes, even they could have done better writing, better producing, and whatnot. I also blame the comic books. I hear Skybound is doing really good work. I was enjoying their Void Rivals, which takes place in what they're calling the Energon universe. I haven't had a chance to look into their Transformers stuff. I'm waiting for the graphic novels to come out. I do think that previously the Transformers were with IDW Comics, and they did poorly. Because originally they were with Marvel, and then they were with some weird European comic book company that had very odd artwork. And then they eventually got onto Dreamwave. Dreamwave was the best reinterpretation of the Generation 1 Transformers as well as Armada. They also had some really good prequel series that were fantastic, and I loved them. Unfortunately, Dreamwave didn't like paying their artists and writers, so they eventually went under just with poor investments. And then Transformers ended up with IDW, which again, in my opinion, IDW really mismanaged that franchise. They tried to continue the Dreamwave comics originally, and then they rebooted it, but then they let their writers put a whole bunch of dumb, politically correct nonsense. Transformers is about giant robots punching each other. That's all it needs to be about ever. And there was no need to put all of these weird relationships. Like I remember Transformers Lost Light, they had Cyclonus falling in love with an Autobot. For IDW, though, to use that and to make it into a politically correct thing where they put a lot of woke messaging, it was really dumb. And I think that really burned the brand for a lot of people. And that affected the movies because anytime one of those idiot IDW writers would do something where they would change the orientation of one of the Transformers, I think they had a trans Transformers, which is absolutely stupid in my opinion. I think that also affected the brand negatively with the toys, with the TV shows, and with the movies. They did that dumb thing with Nightbeat in Transformers. Is it called Transformers All Spark or whatever it is, the new little kids show? Yeah, it was really dumb and stupid and it made no sense. Also, I think Transformers 1 failed because of the celebrity casting. I did like Scarlett Johansson as Elita 1. However, with Peter Cullen and Neil Kaplan still alive, there is no reason to cast anyone else as Optimus Prime. With Frank Welker and David Case still alive, there is no reason to cast anyone else as Megatron, especially in an animated sort of situation. But they went with Chris Hemsworth for Optimus Prime. And listen, Chris Hemsworth is great in Extraction, he's great in the MCU. He was not the right person for Optimus Prime. And I think that was sort of a failure on Paramount's part. But if they ever do decide to do Transformers 2, unlikely because of how Transformers 1 performed at the box office, who knows, maybe they will reevaluate it. Because it was supposed to be sort of a prequel of sorts, right? It's supposed to be how D23 became Megatron, which in the comics he's usually called Megatronus, but anyway, and how Orion Pax became Optimus Prime. So maybe in the sequel, they'll bring back Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, respectively, as those characters. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but I'm actually not really surprised that Hasbro is making this move. If you like that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, tell me what you think about it in the comments section below, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. Don't forget, head on over to my website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where you can sign up for free. You just use your email address. There are no ads. There are no fees. It's just free for you to look at reviews, news, and views of all kinds of things, including I have a lot of Transformers stuff over there. So head on over if you're a big TF fan like myself. If you want to support me, head on over to my locals community. The link is in the description of the video. You can sign up for a monthly subscription, or you can send me tips of the articles I post there, including some exclusive ones. One of the biggest ways you can also support me is I write novels. I've got the supernatural thriller Cacophony, the sword and sorcery series, The Seven Royals, which book 1 is All Good Things, book 2 is Breaking the Stars, book 3 is on its way. I also have my latest release. It's a fantasy romance novella, Blessed Child. If your kids are 12 and older, mom, dad, you can read them along with them. They're a lot of fun. I hope you will pick them up and leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.